seen TMZ has ran the story to say, yes, the body was frozen at some point, and apparently they're now looking at a Airbnb that the dude had. They're saying there was a freezer that was there that could have been big enough to hold the body. Now, this is just a regular Sub-Zero fridge. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like one of the big freezers that you usually see in movies that you can just open up like this and it just sits on the ground. So, you think that he put her body in here? Like, it's like a luxury kitchen. Like, all right, bro, like, let's make some omelets. Like, open the other side, you get the eggs, you get this. Yo, let's get some ice for, you know what I mean? Definitely for the alcohol. Oh, shit, there's a body up in the freezer. Holy. Like, I don't know. Right? Like, what are your thoughts? Look, they're saying Singer D4vd, suspect in the presumed homicide of Celeste Rivas, I gotta remember the name is Rivas, not Rivera, had a large freezer large enough to store a body. A relevant fact since her body had apparently been frozen for months. So now they're claiming that her body was frozen for months. So check out this photo of the rental home that was taken a few years ago, and it shows the kitchen had a KitchenAid. Okay, so it's not Sub-Zero, it's KitchenAid refrigerator and freezer. The freezer side, which would be the left side of the appliance, has a height of around 74 inches with a width around 14 inches and has a depth of roughly 27 inches. The temperature can get as low as minus 8 degrees Fahrenheit. She was 5'3" and 120 pounds, and they broke the story that her body was found in a bag in the Tesla. It was decapitated and the arms and limbs were cut off. So it could have fit in the freezer. If the shelving inside had been removed, by the way, a torso for a 5'3" woman falls between 15 and 17 inches long. Now, you know what's also confusing? Like, so they're saying that they froze her body, but they might have had the body in the Tesla trying to bring it somewhere, and they brought it to some remote forest area, but they never tried to bury it. Or maybe they did bury parts. Maybe they were trying to slowly bury and scatter parts of this body. And now they've said that this guy David is now a suspect, but they're saying he's not the only suspect, which means they're actually saying that he has had help in maybe not only the murder, but the destroying, moving, and trying to get rid of the body. And so, mind you, we don't know if police have zeroed in on the freezer, but as first reported, the body was partially frozen when it was found. That's also interesting. If the body was partially frozen, now remember, if the body is frozen, what happens to those cells, even if it's completely, and I hate to say this word, thawed out, the freezing effect of what happens to your cells will always be able to be detected, even like a year later. By the way, if you ever think about what's that shit they call again? It's like cryogenics. You ever see the science of where people want to freeze their organs or freeze their body in state and come back at a later time, right? Freeze a body to come back later on. I think what is that called? Cryopreservation. Like, I've watched like little documentaries on it. Now here's chronics, right? So here you go.
Frozen with,
and I know I'm getting like scientific on y'all, but like, just chill.
Hope of being brought back to life in the future. Sounds like science fiction, huh? This is legally declared dead. But how can someone who's dead be brought back to life?
Okay. And the thought behind it is that, as technology becomes better in the future, you'd be able to, like, freeze people to potentially treat them or somehow bring back life at a different point, right? And even some people who are alive, like the more advanced part of this science is that people who are alive would be like, hey, I want to live 100 years from now. They could freeze you and almost kind of like, I don't know how they harness like your soul and spirit, but technically or not technically, like hypothetically, they would bring you back because since your body would be frozen, it wouldn't be deteriorating, this and third, it wouldn't need certain type of sustenance, and they could just bring it back at a later time. Here's the problem with this whole thing and this whole study and this part of science is that The major problem in doing that is what freezing a human body does is that your blood cells it turns those cells into like an oval shape that fucks it up for life. And even when you thaw it out, you're not getting the same person. It's not really conducive for life afterwards. So I'm using that science, or what I know about that science, which is one of the major hurdles in this entire study, to go back to this Celeste thing, meaning that when a body is frozen, no matter if you find it unfrozen, you could do science to detect if it was frozen based on the shape of the cells. You get what I'm saying? That's why I'm not trying to bring out the science fiction, but I'm just trying to tell you, right? So when they said that they found the body, but it was partially frozen, that's shocking to me. If it's partially frozen, this isn't LA. LA is pretty much a decently hot place. The body must have been, if they're really saying frozen, that means the body must have been put in the car like a day or two before, right? But if by them saying frozen, they're saying they could determine the body was frozen at a point, maybe not frozen at the moment it was found, because why would the body stink and reek that bad? And by the way, remember, it was supposedly there for like a couple weeks with the rancid smell. That's how it got found. It's no way a body is going to be like, there's no refrigerator in a Tesla fucking frunk. Was it in the frunk or was it? Yeah, I forgot where it was. Anyway, I don't think they mean that the body was frozen in the car. I think they, in them analyzing the body, it was frozen at some point. You get what I'm saying? That's why I brought up the cryonic stuff, because freezing a body alters some of the anatomy of those cells. Okay? Okay. All right. So yeah, and they're saying by the way, look at this. They're saying frozen what is this? There's also a video showing David in the house, not his rental, with an appliance box next to him. The box appears to be a convertible chest / freezer with the removable storage basket. It has a capacity for 7 cubic feet. By the way, the last video of hers is from September. We don't know if this freezer has any connection to this case, but the timing is off. Remember, authorities says David went to a remote area in spring of 2025. That's where they believe the body was dismembered. So one source with knowledge tells TMZ one theory is David, an accomplice who is also a suspect, may have taken the body there, dismembered it, and returned it to LA, where it sat in a freezer for months. If that were the case, why did the body end up in his Tesla? Just various theories. And say he was no longer staying at the house because he was on tour. Other people were staying at the home and they could have discovered the body. Again, this is just one theory, but we're told that LAPD is methodically putting together a timeline to determine what happened to her. So they're saying that, like, maybe the body was inside this freezer. They moved it out the freezer to put it in a Tesla because he's on tour, and maybe other people are coming into this house and they want them to open the fridge like, oh shit, let me get some, let me get a frozen burger. I'm like, oh, the fuck? This is a body up in the junk, And then this supposedly is a freezer. He bought a standalone freezer. And now keep in mind, she's already 5'3". You cut off the head and I guess the limbs. I know they said the hands were removed, but was her feet removed? They said her body had been apparent frozen for months.